Okay, so today we are going to be reviewing fractions, decimals, and percents. And we are going to do it in a way that we used to do it, not how you're supposed to know how to do it. Please definitely ask questions today when we're going through this if you're confused or you don't understand. But my advice to you is that think very simply. Like changing fractions, decimals, and percents is not hard. And you just have to think of today's lesson as very simple math. Go ahead. We are actually not going to do a brain dump today because we're just going to jump right into it because there is actually an activity that will probably take you guys a decent amount of time to do today, and you are going to have math homework tonight. Okay? Bless you. Okay, so iPad should be closed. You should just have your notebook and your pencils out today. Alright, so we are actually going to start on the notes page. Then we're going to go to essentially the practice page, and that's where I'm going to give you the handout. You are going to have to know how to go from a fraction to a decimal to a percent to a fraction to from a percent to a decimal from a percent to a fraction. Alright, it is a very easy process. However, what I just said sound like a foreign language of fraction, decimal, percents. Okay. Again, your mindset today needs to be simple. So we'll just start with decimals to percents. So I gotta go get your iPad. Alright, so the decimal that we are going to start with is going to be 125 thousandths. Okay? Now, I want to take this decimal and I want to change it into a percent. So, how do you think we're going to do that? Any ideas? What do you think, Andrew?
We're gonna create like that fraction thing I remember doing, like so.
Nope, that's too hard. Simple today. Simple.
You're gonna divide it.
Nope, that's too hard too.
We're gonna subtract it.
We're not doing any math with it.
What?
Nope. All you're doing is you're moving your decimal 2 places to the right, and you are rewriting it as a decimal, and you're adding what to it? If we're going from a decimal to a percent, what do we have to add at the end? Remember?
Percent sign.
Percent sign. That is how easy it is to go from a decimal to a percent. Not bad, right? No math. Simple. Alright? Now, we are going to go from a percent to a decimal. How do you think we go from a percent to a decimal, Andrew?
So you take the 12 and a half and then you move your decimal to one place to the right.
How many?
Or 2 places to the right.
So I move 2 places to the right. Do I keep my percent? Simple. Alright, so I get rid of that, so this simply becomes 125,000. Alright, so obviously with that one, I kinda can put it a little simple, right? So now, how do you think we go from a fraction to a decimal? So we're gonna get a touch harder here. So a fraction. So let's go, what fraction do we want? Let's keep it kinda simple. Okay, let's do 125 thousandths. Keeping it simple. We're gonna use the same number all the way through. So, what do we do here to get this to be a fraction? What do you think we do? I'm sorry. From the fraction to the decimal. Bryson?
So you have to put a zero.
Nope. Nope. No zeros. Add it.
So we're gonna put no imaginary decimal.
Nope. No imaginary decimals. Alright.
Okay, and then you have to move it to the left and times to make it into a decimal.
But it's a fraction, you can't add a decimal into a fraction. But I like where your head's at. Alright, so this one, you have to do a touch of math. So we have to put the small number divided by the big number, right? So obviously, 1,000 can't go into 1, 2, or 5. So we're gonna add a 0 here, a decimal here, bring it straight up, and a 0 there. So now, can 1,000 go into 1,250? How many times? One time? How many times can 1,000 go into 2,500? Come on, y'all. This is still very simple math. Brielle?
2 times.
2 times. And you should be picking up on a pattern at this moment in time. How many times can 1,000 go into 5,000? Abby? 5. So essentially, you end up with this decimal. Sorry. Alright, so going from a fraction to a decimal is a little bit harder if you do it the math way. If you do it the way that Addie was talking about, you simply say what the number is. 125,000. So how do we write 125,000? 0.125. So in a way, Addie was correct, but like I told her, you can't put that decimal in your fraction. So if you wanted to do it the way Addie said, you just simply go gotta take it out of that fraction. All right, let's see. So we've gone decimal to percent, we've gone percent to decimal, fraction to decimal. What's the last thing that we have to do that we haven't done yet? Gabby?
Fraction to percent.
Fraction to percent. All right, and the reason I left this one to last is essentially you kind of have to do all three. You have to go from a fraction to a decimal to a percent. So that's kind of why I left this one to last. Do we want to use the same fraction decimal, or do we want to change it and go with a new one? What do you guys want to do? Same one? All right, so as a fraction, we have 125,000. How do we want to change this to a decimal? So I showed you 2 ways up here. We can either do the division or we can take it out of the fraction and move our decimal. Which one do you wanna do, Isabel?
Take it out.
Okay, so this becomes 125, move my decimal 3 places to the left, which becomes 125,000. So I've gone from a fraction to a decimal. Now, how do I go from a decimal to a percent? Bryson?
You have to move your decimal 2 places to the right.
2 places to the right, so 1, 2, and this becomes 12 and a half. What do I have to add? My percent sign. Alright, that is as easy as it goes, guys. I mean, honestly, it's not hard. And why I can't keep this right down here, I don't know. So, you are going to need all of this information today when you go into your partner/group, depending on how you want to work. But we are going to do some practice with this. So, when you get this is what's going to go on the left side of your paper. Here. Is what? No, it's not. I need you to wake up then. Okay, so starting with number 1. We are going to be working as a class through all of this, so it's not going to be any independent work at all. Like, this is still very much classwork so that we get used to it. So you have 2 sets of directions. First one says, decide on a strategy for ordering the numbers. Will you write them all as a fraction, a decimal, or percent? So look at C, look at those numbers, and how do we want to write them? Fractions, decimals, or percents. So think about that. Then, hold on. B, it says use your strategy in a number line to order the numbers from least to greatest. So that might also persuade you in how you're going to do your numbers. All right, so stand up if you want to write them as fractions. Stand up if you want to write them as fractions. Okay, have a seat. Stand up if you want to write them as decimals. Okay, and stand up if you want to write them as percent. All right, so majority rules, we're going to do decimals. So the very first thing we have to do is change the ones that obviously are not decimals into decimals. So 1/8, how am I going to do that? How am I going to change 1/8 into a decimal? Look at your notes that you just wrote and go from fraction to decimal. Andrew?
You're gonna do 1 by 8.
So 1 divided by 8. And I'm actually going to do this in my notebook because there's not a ton of room down here. All right, so what can I multiply 8 by to get 1? Anything? Okay. All right, what can I multiply 8 by to get 10? 1. You all right over there? What can I multiply 8 by to get 20? Indira? 2? And what can I multiply 8 by to get 40? Alex? 5. Alright, so 1/8 as a decimal is 125,000. Alright, so we're going to write 125,000. And this isn't necessarily in the order, it's just we're writing it down so we know all of our, decimals. Alright, 11%. That one should be pretty easy. How do we go from a percent to a decimal? How do we go from a percent to a decimal? Joe?
We move it. We move our decimal. Wait, is it? Yeah, we add a decimal and we move it 2 spaces to the left.
So 1, 2. Do I keep the percent sign or no?
No.
Alright, so that goes away and this becomes 1100s. So for here, I have 1100s. Alright, what about 3/20ths? What do I do here? 3/20ths. Gabby?
Divide 3 by 20.
3 divided by 20. Alright, how many times does 20 go into 30? I skipped a step there. One time, Ben? How many times does 20 go into 100? Alex? 5 times? Alright, so this becomes 1500ths. Alright, the next one is already done for us, so we're just going to recopy that down. The next one is also done for us, so we're going to copy that down. And then we're looking at 43%. So what do we do? 43%. Elizabeth.
We move our decimal we move our decimal twice, right?
To the right. Look at your paper, y'all. Look at the paper. It's right there. There's no reason we can't answer these simple questions. It's just laziness. We're not even willing to look at the paper next to the paper that we're working on. I don't understand. Which way we going? No, we're not going to the right. Not when we have a percent. No, because if I go to the right, Elizabeth, I'm now going to write 4,300%. Is that what I'm trying to do? So Elizabeth, which way are we moving our decimal? Do we keep our percent sign? So you end up with 4,300ths. Alright, what about 7%? Careful with this one. What about 7%? Andrew?
You move your decimal to the left,
How many times?
be 1 time.
But don't we always move it 2 times?
There's only one place.
Doesn't matter.
So you move it 2 times to the left, so it'll be 0 to 700.
Yes. And this is very important that you don't just say, well, I'm only moving it once because there's only one number. That's not true, because 7/10 is much different than 700, sorry. All right, so this one is 7/10, then the next one is done for us. And the last one, 5/6. How do we do that one? How do I change 5/6 to a decimal? Someone new. Cam? So I'm gonna do 5 divided by 6. How many times does 6 go into 50? Someone new. 8 times. How many times does 6 go into 20?
3 times.
3 times. And this is going to be a repeating decimal, so this is just 8300ths. Okay, I am not going to make a number line just because my number line would have to be this big because I don't write terribly small. But I do want to still put our numbers in order from least to greatest. So which number goes first? Which number goes first? Ben? 0.7. Alright, here's a hint. So take your paper, flip it over, and write your decimals lined up. Alright, so now, obviously all of them are zeros in the ones place. Let's look at the tenths place. So looking at just this row, right here. Which one is the smallest number? 1, 1, 1, 1, 3, 4, 0, 7, 8. Bryson? 0. So that one is going to come first. So it's the 700ths. So that one is used. That one is gone. Alright? Then, doing the same thing, which one comes next? The 1s, 3, 4, 7, 8. Which one is the smallest of those numbers? I'm not asking you to put anything in order, I'm just simply asking you to raise your hand and tell me which number is smaller, 1, 3, 4, 7, or 8. Every hand should be up at this point. Because if you don't know which number is the smallest number up there, we're in huge trouble. Carter? 1. Alright, so now I'm going to slide over and look here. Alright, so which one? Be careful with this one. What do we think, Alex? So this one, so we say this is the next smallest number? Do we agree? Yes, no? It's up to y'all, you tell me. Okay, alright, so that goes next. This one, and we've used this one. So I'm gonna stay right here though with this, because my next number is going to be what? Bless you. What's my next number gonna be? Callie? Okay. So now, looking at these two, which one is going to be my next smallest number? Gabby?
125,000.
And then the next smallest number? Even if you can't say the numbers, just tell me the numbers in it. Kira?
172,000.
Alright, so now we're done with that. Let's slide back over here. Which is our smallest number between 3, 4, 7, 8? Soraya? Which is the smallest number between 3, 4, 7, and 8? So our next number is going to be 32 hundredths. What's the next smallest number between 4, 7, and 8? Carter? Okay, 43 hundredths. And then the 7 tenths and the 83 hundredths. That is probably one of the hardest things you're gonna have to do on the EOG. I'm sure there's going to be one type of question that says, line these numbers up from least to greatest, or pick the one that has the numbers least to greatest. They might have percents, they might have fractions, they might have decimals. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and slide down to the next part. So this part says, working with your class, decide which number form, fraction, decimal, or percent, is more common, then which is greater, And last, circle the common number form and underline, which is greater. So the first one, we're looking at 7% sales tax or 1/20th sales tax. Which one do you hear more? So which one is more common? Andrew?
7% sales tax.
Okay, so the 7% sales tax, so that's the first thing. So we know it, we're going to be using the percent one because that's just more common. Alright, so now we have to figure out which one is greater. So how do we do that? We obviously know 7% sales tax. With this fraction, do we want to keep it as a fraction or do we want to change it to a percent? Joe?
We have to change it to percentage.
Okay, so if we change it to a percent, how do we do that? How do we change this to a percent? So I'm gonna do 1 divided by 20. Alright, can you multiply anything by 20 to get 10? Nope. Can you multiply anything by 20 to get 100? 5. So this becomes 5 hundredths, or what percentage? What percentage does this become, Ben?
5.
Yep,
5.
just 5%. So which one is greater? The 7% or the 5%? Soraya. So it says to determine, so we're circling the common one and we're underlining that one because that's the greatest one. Okay? Alright, the next one says 37 hundredths cup of flour or 1/3 cup of flour. So which, are we using fraction, decimal, or percent here? Fraction. Okay? Which one is greater? Again, how do we figure out which one's greater? We obviously know that this is 37 hundredths. Are we going to do 1/3? So are we changing the 37 hundredths to 1/3? Are we changing 37 hundredths to a fraction? Or are we changing the 1/3 to a decimal? What do you guys want to do? Joe?
We could change the decimal to a fraction. I mean the fraction to a decimal.
And you'll see why in a second. So when you do this, you divide your 1 divided by 3 and you end up with 33 hundredths forever. Is a repeating decimal. So which one is greater here? 37 hundredths or 33 hundredths? Which one is greater, Carter? So we're underlining this one. Which one is more common? Like which one do you use more? Elizabeth. The what? Yes, the 3/4 cup. All right, next one. 3 5/8 inch wrench or 3 69/100 inch wrench. Which one obviously is, are we going to use? Are we going to use fraction, decimal, percent? Does anybody know what wrench measurements are? Okay, so usually your wrench measurements are in fractions. So this is going to be fraction. Okay, cool. So we have to figure out which one's greater. So we're leaving the 3 whole alone, but what are we doing with 5/8? What are we going to do with that 5/8? Ben? We're going to divide it, and you end up with 3 625,000. Sorry. All right, so which one is greater? The 3 625,000 or the 3 69/100? Which one is greater? Every hand should be up because all you're doing is looking at, you're essentially looking at this number and this number. So they're both what? The first place value to the right of the decimal, you're looking at 2 6s. So they're both the same, right? So then we have to go to the second place value, which is your 100. And that's a 9 and a 2. Which one is greater? Abby?
9.
Okay, so therefore this is our greater, but the more common one is this one over here. All right, D. So again, we're looking as a fraction decimal percent. So we have 12 and 2/3 dollars. Never heard that in my life. Or we have $12.56. So which one are we using? Fraction decimal percent. What do you think, Ellie? Yes. So we're using the decimal. Bless you. All right. Now we have to figure out which one's greater. So how do we do that? How do we do that?
You change the fraction to decimals.
Okay, and when you do your division, you end up with $12.67. All right, so which one is greater? $12.67 or $12.56? Harder? Okay, so this one is greater, but this one is more common. All right, I want you guys to try each. So you're determining which one you're gonna use, fraction, decimal percent, which one's greater, which one's more common, and which one is, circle which one's common or which one's greater. So you have 93% test score and you have 7/8 test score. All right, so stand up when you have this done. All right, about 10 more seconds and then we're gonna go over this. All right, go ahead and have a seat. So are we doing fraction, decimal, percent? Which one are we doing? 'Cause I feel like everybody got that one right. Carter? Got it. So percent. All right, and then which one is greater? Which one is greater? Who's greater? Callie? 93% was greater. Okay, so then what was 7/8 when you did your work to get it to a percent? Not 87. Not 85%. Alex? 87.5%. All right, and then obviously which one is more common? 7/8 test score or 93% test score? Andrew?
93%.
All right. Again, this is just practicing being able to identify, being able to, change from one to the next. All right, last one. It says 5 and 5,600, or 5 and 5/6 fluid ounces or 5 6/10 fluid ounces. All right, so which one is most common? Hold on, wait. Are we doing fraction, decimal, percent? Start with that. Addie? So you're doing decimal? All right. Does anybody think that the fraction is more common? So why do you say decimal? Everything that you drink, bottles of water, cans of Coke, like my bottles over here are 16.56 liters or 16.9 fluid ounces or whatever. So yes, the decimal part of this is more common. So we're going to keep it as a decimal. All right, and then over here we have to do our 5/6, and what do we have to do with that since we're keeping it as a decimal? What do we have to do? Levy, what do we gotta do? If we're keeping it as a decimal, how do I take 5/6 and change it to a decimal? What do your notes say? So fraction to the decimal is what you're looking for. Yep. So you would do your 5 divided by 6, and you end up with 5 8300 as your answer. So which one is greater? Which one's greater? 5 6/10 or 5 8300? Savannah? Okay. So again, that was kind of made you think a little bit. This one will not make you think as hard, I promise. So we are just going to simply fill out this chart. It gives you some, or it gives you just one. So the first one is 8/25 becomes 72 hundredths, and what is our percent going to look like then? So are we going to use the fraction or the decimal to write our percent? Definitely the decimal. So I'm just going to move my decimal 2 places to the right, which gives me 72%. All right, makes sense to everybody? Yes, no? Kind of, sort of, maybe? No? Yes? Yes, no? Okay. All right, the next one, 17/20. We have to find our decimal, and then we have 85%. Which one is the easiest one to use to get our decimal here? Alex? No, boy, bye. You crazy. Savannah? Yes. Take your percent, move your decimal, bless you, 2 places to the left, and that gives you 8500. You over there being crazy with fractions. All right, so now the third one only gives you what? What's the only thing it gives you of your 3 choices? Indira. So we don't have any choice but to use the fraction. All right, so I'm going to slide over here and I'm going to do 13 divided by 50. What can I multiply 50 by to get 13? Anything? What can I multiply 50 by to get 130? 2? What can I multiply 50 by to get 300? 6. All right, so now I know my decimal, which is 26 hundredths. Can I now figure out my percent? Yes, no? Yes, no? Juan, you're shaking your head yes, so what do I do, Juan?
You move the decimal 2 times to the left.
Left?
No, right.
Right. Okay, and then I just do 26%. Okay? Alright, so now we're only given the decimal. So one of these is going to be really easy to do. Which one's really easy to do? Sophia? Alright, tell me how I find my percent. Okay, so I have 62%, no problem. how do I go from a decimal to a fraction? What did I do? Did we do that in our notes?
No.
Are you sure?
You dropped it to decimal.
Yeah.
And decimal.
Callie, what do you think we have to do? You can't, well, I mean, you can use the percent, but I wanna also tell you how easy it is to use your decimal. Callie, what is that number? Boom. Drop the mic. I'm out.
Okay, bye.
Is that easy, y'all? Is that easy? Say the number, 62 hundredths. Now, obviously, what do we wanna try to do with this number?
Simplify.
Yes, what number should I try to simplify by?
2.
Perfect. So when I divide 62 by 2, I get 31. When I divide 100 divided by 2, I get 50. Can I simplify this number anymore? No, so that is my fraction. 31/50. Whew, almost did me in right there. That was hard. Was that hard? But how many of you guys were like, I don't know? Exactly, because y'all don't use this thing right here. It's not hard. The other difficult part is if you can't say fraction or decimals. That's when it does get a little difficult. Like if you can't say 62 hundredths, that's hard. Because then you don't know like what to write it over. That's why it's important for you guys to be able to know how to say these numbers. All right, last one, 45%. Walk me through going to a decimal. Gabby.
Move the decimal 2 times to the left and take away the percent sign.
Perfect. All right. Walk me through how to get my fraction. How do I get my fraction? Bryson.
So, you use your decimal.
No. Easier than that.
It's right.
What's that number?
45.
No, that's not 45. If that's 45, you need to become my accountant because I'm about to make a whole lot of money.
Which number?
Don't play with me.
Which number?
The only number that's left. Cam, you better help him. It's not .45 today though, is it? Because is .45 gonna help you write your fractions? No. Alright, so this is where we gotta know. Cam, do you know what to put this over if you say .45?
I mean,
You do? What you gonna, why?
because
It falls in what place? Y'all are killing me. The second place value behind your decimal is what place value? Cam? Hundredths. The first place value to the right of your decimal is what place value? Kira? Tenths. Did you just say ones?
Yes.
4 and 5. I'm out. Y'all are killing me. Ones? No. Alright, so what do I need to do with 45 hundredths though? Brielle? Gotta simplify it by what? Okay? So that gives me 9/20ths, and that is my fraction. Alright, number 4. It says, answer this question using complete sentences. How would you decide whether 3/5 or 59% is greater? So what would you do? What would you do? Gabby?
Return fraction for 2%.
So I would change my fraction to 8%, and then what?
See which one is better.
All right, thumbs up when you have that written. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna have you talk to your group members about it. So Levy, if you wanna pop up and join the group, you can. So this one says, which one does not belong with the other three? Explain your reasoning using complete sentences. So you're looking at 40%, 2/5, 4/10, and 4/1000. 400, sorry. Alright, so I'm gonna give you about a minute to talk to your group members and figure out which one you think doesn't belong. Alright, go ahead.
Alright, which one do you think doesn't look? Give me a guess. Yes. Tell me which one do you think? And then yeah, but we haven't changed it to a
I hope none of these children go into accountability.
Want some pick something full list for this?
Oh, I can't These are my personal markers, my children have to touch them. That's why they're so nice. All the other broken ones are like half broken. I think they eat them.
They probably do.
Yeah. Or they get themselves tattooed, you know. All right, let's see what we came up with. Stand up if you picked 40% does not belong. Praise Jesus, hallelujah. All right, stand up if you picked 2/5 does not belong. If you're standing up, shouldn't your whole group be standing up? Not you, I was talking to Elizabeth. Well, y'all debating over there? Okay. So possibly, maybe, you can't see the screen. Possibly, maybe 2/5 might not belong. We'll come back to that. What about 4/10? Do you think so?
No.
Then why are you raising your hand? God bless
I was
us.
gonna tell you why it doesn't.
Why it does not? Does your whole group agree with that? Your whole group's telling you no.
The other one was the.
0.4.
All right, and stand up if you think 400 does not belong. All right, have a seat. Bryson, why does 400 not belong?
Because if you write that as a fraction, it would be 1,000 on the bottom instead of 100. And it's in 1,000 place.
That is not in the thousands place, is it? That is in the hundreds place.
100 instead of the tens.
So you're saying it has to be in the tenths place.
Yeah.
So if I simplify this by, okay. All right. I'm slightly convinced, but not all the way. I need someone to help, like, cement it, like concrete. Yes, this doesn't belong. Isabel.
It's the only one that doesn't have, portions. So, cause if you make the decimal, no, if you make the percent a decimal, and you make the fraction a decimal, they all equal 4/10, but the last one doesn't.
Okay, I like that. I'm gonna go with that. Does anybody want to add anything to what Isabella said? Okay, so simply changing your numbers to decimals helps you realize, okay, well, this one is what compared to the other three, though? Greater than, equal to, or less? Oh, and hands are down. Woo! Is this greater than, less than, or equal to the other three? Juan, what do you think? Greater than, less than, or equal to? Don't look at them. Look at the paper. Look at the number. Less than, yes. All right, whew, God bless us all. Okay, let's go ahead and glue this paper into our notes. Do not talk, get this done quickly so we can move on to the next thing.
Y'all doing,
Yeah. 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 Every day I go home and bang my head against the wall.
I haven't seen that.
You know what's crazy though? If I could have talked to them here, they would not do that. So we open up, they don't teach me. They don't teach me. Everything's like, yeah, it's insane.
I mean, it builds upon itself.
No.
So you keep simple and then go.
I agree. I'm with you. All right, go ahead. Yes.
You know, is there any glue?
You can borrow this one. It's almost out. Okay. Oh, almost. All right. So go ahead, turn the page and label this FDP for fraction decimal percent. Escape room. You're just gonna have to get a piece of paper because I'm not giving you a notebook for like what, 2, 3 more.
I'm gonna ask for a piece of paper, anyways.
Yeah, just grab a couple. 5:17. All right. And then once you're done, put your pencils down. FDP stands for fraction decimal percent. Okay, so today on Canvas, you're gonna find the notes page that we just did. You guys are going to go to the FDP escape room. So this is where you're working either with a partner or with a group. No more than 4, please. All right, and you are going to go through and you essentially are going to solve each one of these and try to get through this escape room. So it says we have a situation that requires your assistance. Below is a note. Stop moving and squeaking and whatever y'all are doing. Just sit still. Good Lord, children. Below is a note that was found on a hacked computer at the nation's largest bank. You'll be communicating with MSA agents in the field directly through this website. Enter your security clearance code below to prove that you can be trusted. Goes through, da-da-da-da-da, and you move forward. It is the escape room. You must have the right answer for each page to move through. You are working together. If you do not use this notes page that we took, you are not going to make it. Do your work in your notebook on the page that we just filled out. If you need to go on to the next page, you can. When you are finished, you, your partner, or your group members all need to bring me your iPads and show me your confirmation that you have finished. Okay?
What does MSA stand for?
Okay. Anyways, go ahead and get started, y'all. No, you must work on the ceiling. Oh.
Really? How do you get up there?
Miss Kenny, whenever you're doing like squats with the bar on your neck, on the back of your shoulder, it's supposed to be like
It sits like, so essentially, you sit straight up. You shouldn't be sitting just on your neck. Sit on your
it
chin.
was.
You're doing girl.
No,
It's tough.
No, it did. My neck is like broken. And like now I'm not having my neck.
Nope. That's just because you're dark.
You always have.
You're what?
Kenny, I got him a dog. I feel like that robot cyborg.
Alright guys, you're wasting time getting into groups. Just get somewhere, like, get started, get going.
I feel like cyber.
Andrew, where's your iPad?
To my bag. It's very like skinny pocket. So like you crumple up paper.
This paper?
Put that back.
You're working with the other pocket. This pocket. I never put your paper back.
I'll be the